So the January 6th committee, they're gathering evidence, they're putting together documents, figuring out exactly what happened, getting to the bottom of things about what happened with Trump's foot soldiers as they invaded the Capitol, looking to overturn the election and democracy itself in America. And as they're getting these documents, they've discovered a lot of them are ripped up, shredded in pieces, have been pieced back together. And many people would think that's pretty suspicious. Well, Mika Brzezinski and Joe Scarborough were talking about this, and they also think it's pretty suspicious. Let's watch.
Some of the White House records handed over to the committee were reportedly torn and taped back together, while some couldn't be sent because they were already gone. The Washington Post has new reporting out this morning on just how widespread and indiscriminate Trump's shredding of paper in the White House was throughout his presidency, despite multiple admonishments that doing so was against federal law. First reported by Politico in 2018, then President Trump's staffers often had to piece together papers he tore because of the Presidential Records Act. That is the federal law that requires administrations to keep their files.
He was told repeatedly by former White House counsel, chiefs of staff, those around him, but the ripping continued and was so bad that they had to implement entirely new protocols around the former president's shredding habits.
The former president's shredding habits. Now, a couple more details about how this all works. The National Archives and Records Administration last month, they received 15 boxes of documents and other items from former President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago residence. Crazy it came from there, because the material should have been turned over to the agency when he left the White House. Archives officials, they said that on Monday. So this is what they said. The Presidential Records Act is critical to our democracy, in which the government is held accountable by the people. So whether through the creation of adequate and proper documentation, sound records management practices, the preservation of records, or the timely transfer of them to the National Archives at the end of an administration, there should be no question as to the need for both diligence and vigilance. Records matter. So records matter. They were ripped up, they were kept, they were taken to Mar-a-Lago. Who knows what maybe they didn't get to? They have other ways of finding roundabout ways to get to those things. But there is this guy who looks a lot like the former president who said, when you rip up records, that's a bad thing. Let's watch.
I will release my tax returns against my lawyer's wishes when she releases her 33,000 emails that have been deleted. As soon as she releases them, I will release.
I don't want to know what he's going to release, but that's not the only time he said it. He said it again. Watch.
One of the great crimes committed is Hillary Clinton deleting 33,000 emails after Congress sends her a subpoena. Think of that. You can't even do that in a civil case. You can't get rid of evidence like that. She deleted 33,000 emails.
They say you need to do things three times to drive the point home. Let's watch again.
There has never been anything like this where emails and you get a subpoena, and after getting the subpoena, you delete 33,000 emails.
Waz, so is it illegal or is it not illegal? I don't know which way it goes, but there are some details of how they're gonna enforce it. But first, I wanna get your response to exactly what it is he was trying to do.
Yeah, I think it just speaks to Trump's general criminality. I think his default posture is to defraud, is to be basically a grifter, is to cover his tracks and cover his, his backside. That's generally how he's going to operate. What I think is most hilarious about all of this is I remember very early on into Barack Obama's administration, him saying, we're not gonna look to the past, we're not gonna move forward, meaning we're not gonna look into, memos about torturing people, which is illegal, which is a war crime, about lying our tails off to get people into war, spending trillions of dollars, and of course, killing and murdering hundreds of thousands, if not millions of Iraqis and Afghanistan, people in Afghanistan. And that didn't earn these guys any real trouble. Nobody went to jail, nobody got in trouble. These were atrocities committed. I don't know what Trump thought he was gonna get in trouble for, that he felt like he needed to destroy these documents.
Well, hopefully they'll find out what it was he thought he was gonna get in trouble for, because people that have somewhat tried to defend him and said that, he's a businessman. This is an old school business practice. You just wanna, once you eliminate records, you just get rid of them. You toss them to the side. But there was people literally falling behind him after he dropped a piece of paper on the desk in the garbage can on Air Force One and said, we gotta piece these back together because they're gonna come and get me over this next. Now, the reasons he may have done this is because, unsurprisingly, there's not much enforcement when it comes to this, what they would call a gentleman's agreement. Let's look at this more from the Washington Post. So while the law requires that presidents preserve records related to an administration's activities, the archives has very limited enforcement capabilities. The Presidential Records Act operates on the basis of a, quote, gentleman's agreement. That's what one of the archive officials phrased it as. There's a high bar for bringing such cases. That's what Charles Telfer, who's a former counsel for the House of Representatives, said. So there's a high threshold to make sure this is enforced. Maybe the ripping of it is moved on, because this was pointed out, at least previous administrations do take things and they have to return them. And they thought, I thought I could have this as a gift from, the Chancellor of Germany. No, there was something that was for the White House for to stay with the archives. So those mistakes happen all the time. When it comes to ripping up very important documents that are now in the hands of the January 6th committee, I think it's a little different. Just saying.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think it's gonna take a while for us to have a true accounting of what exactly happened during the Trump administration. Of course, especially in the mainstream corporate media, there seems to still be a high level of Trump obsession, like covering him and just basically always thinking about Trump. But I feel like we're a little bit too close to it right now to fully understand how absolutely ridiculous this guy's administration was, and stuff like ripped up archival notes and stuff like that. This is just seems like the tip of the iceberg to me.
Yeah, hopefully we see the rest of this iceberg. We'll see what happens.